So when we go to looking at the past 20 years, what we're seeing is we have had intensification and a little brief pauses for this period of 20 years in our region, but we are into one of the most severe periods of intensification that we've had in that entire 20-year period since we've been doing the drought monitor. So we have more of the region in exceptional and extreme drought than we have ever had before in this period of time, not certainly in history, but certainly in the past 20 years. Hopefully it's not going to last as long. The one from 2002 to 2005 was a fairly long, significant drought. And then 2011 to 2017, we also had a significant period of time. So my only hope for this is that it doesn't last as long as it has lasted in the past. Okay, so how did we get here? Well, this didn't just develop in the short term. It took, trying to get this thing out of my way of seeing my screen. So over the past 6 months, well, the June to November period, we had percent of normal precipitation is less than 30% for large swaths of California, Nevada, parts of Utah and Arizona. And when we get rid of the summer, we still had significant part of the region that was at less than 30% of precipitation. So then we should be starting to accumulate precipitation. When you look down at the past 2 months, you see it looks a little better, but if you look at the scale, they changed the scale. So everything in the red is at least at less than 25% of average. So there's slight improvement, but not really much. And when you're looking at the last 1 month, we're starting to see a little bit in the northern tier of our region that we're starting to get some of those winter storms bringing some precipitation in. So we look at the 6-month precipitation rankings. These are statewide averages. So we have California, Nevada, Utah, and Arizona all at the driest June to November period on the period of record. And then we have New Mexico at the 2nd driest, Colorado 5th driest, Wyoming 11th driest, and Texas at the 24th driest. When we look at temperature, again, we're seeing California, Nevada, and Arizona as the hottest 6-month June to the November period on record, and New Mexico is joining us as the hottest as well. Utah and Colorado 3rd hottest, Wyoming 10th hottest, and Texas 11th hottest. And this is really important because this is intensifying the drought. It's not just because we haven't had precipitation. We have had much, much warmer than normal temperatures. And so that's led to drying out of soils and vegetation, which is basically creating much greater fire hazards. Wildfires have been rampant across the region. So when we look just at temperature, June to November, the 6-month hottest ever in much of Arizona and a lot of places in California and New Mexico as well as southern Nevada. When we go to the 3 months and we no longer include the summer, which we anticipate being hot, we're still seeing much hotter fall weather than we have expected to see. And so we're finally now, when we look to the 1 month, we're finally getting to have some cooler weather from some of these winter storms that are starting to move into the region. Unfortunately, for us in Arizona and New Mexico, they're moving into the region, but they're staying to the northern part of our region as opposed to coming into Arizona and New Mexico. Lake Mead water levels are important to a lot of us in the region because the Colorado River water is critical to a lot of us. And so when we look at the previous wet period we had in the 70s into the late 90s, about a 21-year period, we had near capacity lake levels in Lake Mead. And then when we look at the current drought period, it's about 21 years again, basically the time we've had low precipitation in Colorado, the upper Colorado. We're seeing that the lake levels have been dropping. They would jump up for a few wet years when we would have them, but then they have been continuing down. This past January 1st, we had 1,081 feet plus a little as the level of Lake Mead, and that's a critical amount of water. So The Bureau of Reclamation does a 24-month study, and they estimate the probability of the lake level in Lake Mead being at or below 1,075 feet, which is when we have the Tier 1 shortage, where we start taking forced shortages for the lower basin states. The Tier 0 shortage, this is a voluntary contribution where we leave water in the lake that we don't need to keep the lake level up. So that's not part of this, but the Tier 1 shortage is when we actually start having restrictions on water. And there's two probabilities here. And this is the probability of the level being at 1075 or below 1075 on January 1st of each of these years. And so the one in black, the 23% probability, that's based on the full hydrology of the Colorado River water from 1906 through 2018 in this case. And then we have the one in orange is based on the stress test hydrology. So that's basically the years 1988 through 2018. And those are really the drought years. And so if we're looking at a situation where we're in a continuing drought, which we are, for my money, we're talking about the 32% probability of being at Tier 1 shortage is much more likely than the 23% probability. Either way, I anticipate we're going to be there. This does not include La Nina. This is strictly based on the hydrology and the period of record for the Colorado. But now we look and see we're in a La Nina situation, and so that means that those probabilities should be higher based on this information. So we're in a moderate La Nina at this point in time. And so that's expected to continue through the winter. And when we look at years that have had moderate La Ninas across the region, we see we've had some years like 84, 85, where the southern tier of our region has been wetter than average, and the northern part has been either drier or near average. We've had periods that have been exactly the opposite, where the southern tier has been drier than average and has been a little wetter than average in the Colorado, Utah and Wyoming area, and Nevada as well. And so it's a little bit of everything. And so we've had times when everybody's been pretty much drier than average. For my money, for Arizona, I'm anticipating it's going to be much drier than average, and I expect it may well be for the rest of the region as well. When we look at where we are at this point in time, this is the 7-day QPF. So this is the storm that just went through in the past couple of days through today. And it was good. We haven't had anything in quite a while, so it was a good storm. It brought some precipitation to the northern part of our region. Arizona, New Mexico didn't get much out of it, although I think the areas up near Santa Fe and Taos maybe got a little bit of precipitation or snowfall. We had a dusting of snow in the Payson area, but that was about it for us. And so when we look to the rest of the period, 8 to 14-day outlook, we're looking at potentially drier than average across actually all the Great Plains, as well as the Great Basin and the western southwest region. So I'm not anticipating anything for Arizona through the rest of the year. Temperatures are going to be warmer than normal as well, and so that does not bode well for snow. It does not bode well for if precipitation comes, we might be seeing some rain on snow at some of the mid elevations. Not a good sign. When I look at the snow water equivalent for the western states, there's a little bit of improvement from this past storm in northern Nevada. Probably a little bit of improvement in the Wasatch and Uintas in Utah, and some improvement, maybe not enough to probably hang your hat on or get excited about, but a little something. Everything counts in Colorado and in Wyoming as well. So it's not looking really good. Arizona didn't do too well. There was a little improvement here in northern New Mexico. And when we look at the January to March seasonal outlook, again, this is based on largely on La Nina situation. And so in terms of precipitation, we're seeing the southern states are going to be much drier than normal anticipated. I'm certainly anticipating that'll be the case based on what we've already seen. The northern tier states may be a little bit drier than normal or potentially near average. So hopefully the headwaters of the Colorado will do okay, but I'm not going to hold my breath for that. We'll see. Exactly where the storm tracks come, where the jet stream lines up for the rest of the winter. But we're also tending to see warmer than normal temperatures. So again, even if we get some of those winter storms, they might not be as cold, might not be as snowy, maybe a little bit more rain as we move through the rest of the winter. And so that's basically what I have.
Great.